evening. My name is Ronnie Griffin with Greater Northwest Baptist Church Men Fellowship. So on Saturday, August 31st, we had our first 4 sessions of our series, Finishing Strong in the New Jim Crow. Joining us today is our facilitator, Brother George Middleton, our ministry leader, Brother McKinley Jones, and 4 of our men from the church who were in attendance at the last session. Chaplain Robinson, please tell us what you thought about the session and something you took away from the session.
So I came there just out of curiosity, and I realized that my individual battle has been a struggle that I wasn't aware of. And so it made me aware that I do have some injuries and some pain that I've kind of suppressed because of the fact I felt like it was my job to fight these battles all these years. You know, I've witnessed racism firsthand personally, but I've never allowed that to stop me from doing what I had to do. But as was stated in the class, it does leave some scars. It does leave some battle wounds that I just kind of avoided all these years. And so that was kind of surprising to me that I can learn something new. Like I said, after all these years of what I've gone through and all the study that I've done, there were still things that I can learn. And so I was impressed with them. I wish there were more people, younger people, that were there to witness what I experienced during that time. I'm looking forward to going forward with this and learn a little more about myself and some of the things that I've struggled with that I wasn't aware of.
Thank you, Chaplain Robinson. Brother Dan.
After we got into the discussion, the first thing I thought about was my sons. How have I affected my sons with my personal struggles? And how can I improve my relationship with my sons to correct some of those personal struggles? I went through years of working on a job. You know, I put in 35 years on my job, and the whole 35 years, I had to deal with racism and different struggles and not getting the promotions I felt I should have received and everything. And it kind of leaves a scar on you. That kind of opened up a lot of the old scars and made me face them. And I really enjoyed the session. I enjoyed the participation because I learned that I wasn't in the struggle by myself, that other men have similar struggles all the time, and that it did us good to discuss those struggles, that we can discuss them with our sons to be better men.
Thank you, Brother Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Ben, could you share your thoughts about the session?
First of all, I realized that I was overwhelmed by the session to be made to think about things that I thought in my head and heart were already under control for me. One of the things I thought about while sitting in that class was, what's the proper way to react to racism? I remember back in the militant days from high school and first couple of years of college, being militant about it, being very vocal about it, carrying the signs, just being mad, but also being educated to things I should have known. Because we often, in carrying this around, feel and get mad before we decide how we really want to deal with the issue at hand. But I'm also realizing that in that class, I realized when we talked about ancestral feelings being in me, that I wasn't aware that I brought those, or those feelings were in me from which I come. And so the enlightenment of different things like that, helps me to understand why I feel what I feel. Because I did not grow up in racism until racism was thrown at me. It's even a struggle for me now, maybe a struggle for some of you guys, is how do you carry yourself as a godly man and carry those issues too? How do you drop those issues and just present yourself to yourself in the best frame of reference you can? I'd like to learn how to teach my kids, because I'm telling them all the time, don't get upset over that. Let's just decide to talk about what the solution is going to be. What's the outcome going to be? What do you want out of this? Because I see in my kids some of the same things we talked about in the classroom that they don't know how to handle, and I need to prepare myself on what to say to them. I pray a lot about, Lord, help me to say what you'd have me to say to my kids. Because if I just talk to them right off the top of my head, I may say many things, especially when it comes to racism, that I think later, you shouldn't have said that. They don't need to carry that attitude around. So the class taught me, one of the major things the class taught me is to rethink about how I feel about racism and rethink about how I'm going to respond.
Good.
Because I believe today that the response is most important.
Dave,
Well,
could you share your
I
story?
thought the session was very enlightening and very thought-provoking, because as a couple of the fellows just stated, I really didn't know what to expect, when I came in. I didn't know if it would just be another regular lecture or, or what, was it new information? What was I going to learn through it? But we discussed a lot of issues, which I think Ben and I think Dan mentioned that we as Black men share and deal with daily. How society has impacted our journey spiritually, physically, and also mentally. That first session was some really good stuff. And all I can say is I look forward to the next session.
Me too.
The bottom line is iron sharpens iron.
Amen.
Amen.
I just wish it wasn't so far apart.
Yeah.
Me too. I got one more comment. I think for the next session, I'm gonna try and invite one of my sons to come. I got 4 sons, and I would love to have them hear some of this information, because I think them hearing it and other men sharing this information, they would perceive it a lot different than me trying to constantly relay this information to them. So I'm gonna try and invite one of my sons, and I encourage everyone to invite a young person, someone, to have them come and enjoy this as well.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Dan. Thank you, Brother Claude. Thank you, Brother Ben. And thank you, Brother Steve.
Most welcome.
Brother George, would you provide us closing comments? And then we'll go to Brother McKinley Jones.
And just to give a summary again of the objectives here, the objectives are to align the principles of the course curriculum between Finishing Strong and the new Jim Crow. And we really brought out the lack of cultural relevance of Finishing Strong. Even though the message was good, we couldn't connect to from a culturally relevant place. And then we brought in the new Jim Crow, which speaks more to our racial experience. And we were challenged with questions as men, because this is a men's group. And so how do we take these 2 course curriculums, make them relevant culturally, and then apply them as men? And then the second objective is to understand the principles of racism. And as Neely Fuller and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing state very plainly, if you don't understand racism / white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else you think you understand will only confuse you. And then the last, most important objective of this 4-part series is to set an effective vision. To get back to kind of something that Brother Ben said, the typical way of coping through things is, put it in God's hands. And so I just want to challenge the men here and whoever's listening that God depends on us to do his work for him. He will work with us, but he's not going to do the work for us. And men, we've got work to do. And so I love what Brother Daniel said. Let's encourage, let's make it a goal for everybody to at least bring 2 other people with them for this next one. And let's create this team of men, this team of leaders, because we have a challenge before us that's calling for leadership from the church. It's calling for proactive leadership from the church.
Thank you, Brother George. Brother Jones.
Well, again, I'd just like to thank all of you for being here today and expressing yourselves on what you were able to glean from our first session. And as you can see from the comments that you heard today, that it was very interactive. You're gonna touch on some things that you probably never thought about before. We have a great facilitator here, and George Middleton, who's leading us through this process. And I think too, we're men. We need to be at the forefront as far as our families and communities are concerned. So I want to invite you to our next session, which will be Saturday, September the 28th. We'll start right around 9:30 with a continental breakfast, and we'll get right into our second session. You can register online if you go to Greater Northwest Baptist Church's website and go to the Men's Fellowship Ministry. You can register there. So we'll have 3 sessions still available to you. If you have questions, you can call the office at Greater Northwest Baptist Church. But again, thanks for all the enthusiasm that we've garnered so far, and we look forward to seeing you at our next session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yo.
All right.
Bring your A game, because some of you guys be starting trouble up in that.